Ratra have started. Shraddh is over. Festivity, you can you can feel it, and you can feel the vibe, and you can also smell the optimism in air in terms of where the economy is headed. Consumption has made a comeback. It is evident if you look at the initial response, what we've got, I mean, the numbers which we've got, let's say, from the Amazon or from the Flipkart sale. Is the Indian consumer back? Is he here to stay? Is the sugar rush which happened post the lockdown, is that over? And what categories are seeing the maximum pent up demand? Is the consumer uptrading or downtrading? Now, these are questions which we would be discussing and debating with Pankaj Jaju, founder and CEO with our Capital Advisors. Pankaj, good morning. Good to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Festival season sales. If I use that term festival season, what are the three things that come to your mind which would capture the mood point and the demand trajectory for 2022 festival season?
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Clearly, the consumer is back with a bang, and you see it across categories. I wouldn't call this festival season sales because this has been continuing for last several months, and you can see it across categories, luxury, jewelry, uh, clothes and apparel, uh, sports products everywhere. The consumer is clearly back and is shopping in a big way. So if I were to just give you some data, so Retailers Association of India did a survey of retail across the country, and in August of 2022, which is not really a festive season, and if it were to be compared with August of the previous year, so no impact of COVID, the third wave, the second wave had gone, and sales have been up by between 15 to 18% across the country.
Pankaj, if the economy is feeling the pinch of high commodity prices, high interest rates, uh, in general, last 3 months have been slightly tough for at least commodity consumers. Urban demand has been okay. Monsoon has been slightly haywire. Are you slightly surprised with the demand optimism? We had the management of Raymond's, for example, a few days ago. They are talking about a Diwali like never before. The management of Vijay Sales is talking about sales which are demand which is unprecedented. Where is the sugar rush coming from?
So I think multiple things, and we'll have to look at this a little more closely. So let's look at what happened after COVID. Consumers rushed out to buy. There were products and categories which saw a big jump. So, for example, people started investing in their homes, and bought new bed linen or curtains and stuff. Now that's that much bed linen, curtains, etc. you can buy, and those are categories which slow down eventually. But other than that, there is a significant uptick in demand. However, there are two Indias that are emerging clearly. So if you look at what's happening to people who probably are pinched by, the high commodity prices. So for someone for whom food is, let's say, 50-60% of the monthly budget, and if food prices have moved up by 30 to 40%, clearly there is a slowdown in consumption there. So if you look at rural markets, semi-urban markets, if you look at some of the categories which are sold there clearly you are seeing some kind of a demand dip. If you look at numbers that value retailers have in the tier 2 tier 3 markets have reported, those numbers are not showcasing the growth or the optimism or the enthusiasm that we are seeing from, let's say, a Raymond or Vijay Sales, which are meeting the urban demand where the consumer has actually saved money. So you're not going abroad for travel, you've got money in your pocket, you want to go out and shop. I think people are just moving out into the shops, into malls, and spending money, and I think that's what's visible.
Hi there, good morning. Let's also understand from you what the opportunity is when it comes to the China plus one story for textiles and apparels playing out.
Yeah, that's a big opportunity for India. If you look at Indian exports of textiles, it's Indian market share is probably 4 to 5% of global textile trade, and China used to be at about 35-36%. Now, every shift of a percent from where China is down and towards India means we could potentially grow by 20-25%. And the shift could be reasonably large because most buyers are looking at China plus one. India is a market people are looking at. What's happening with some of our neighbors, Sri Lanka, is also helping move some of the demand to India. Of course, there are temporary ups and downs. So we've had this huge volatility in cotton prices. At a point, cotton prices had gone up 3x from their lows in the last 3 years, and now have moderated a bit. Um, and as a result, the profitability of some of the players, yarn companies, will probably be under pressure. But if you look at the long-term story, clearly big growth, and that's what's also demonstrated by the optimism that you see from all garment exporters out of India.
The other thing I also wanted to talk about, uh, this urban trend right now, Pankaj, the fact that, we were just looking at the sales coming in from Flipkart and Amazon as part of their festive sales. And there've been Samsung phones worth 1,000 crore rupees, which have been bought just about on day 2 or 3 of their sales. Luxury shopping that continues to see a very, very strong demand. So clearly the high end of the urban consumer is definitely not drawing their purse strings tighter, inflation or not.
That's true. So if you look at Titan, for example, which is a proxy for luxury shopping in India, given that most of the other players probably don't report numbers on a quarterly basis, Titan's first quarter this year is probably 2.5x of what it had done pre-pandemic. And that itself showcases the kind of shopping that's happening in luxury. And most luxury players through the pandemic and now have done reasonably well because the wealthy aren't traveling enough, visas aren't easily available, and hence the shopping is happening in India. The other trend which is actually visible is that pre-pandemic there was this question on death of retail: will malls survive? Will the consumers move completely online? And reality is that the consumer wants to go back into stores and shop. And you are seeing that in the high streets, which was happening even earlier because those were open even while malls were shut. And now, while malls have footfalls impacted because theaters are impacted, there aren't good movies that are happening, but still the sales in physical retail has just come back. So one big trend, at least one sees, is that physical retail seems to be here to stay and is seeing a big comeback. And while you spoke about the festive sales for Amazon and Flipkart, but prior to that, they did see a bit of moderation in the demand. So the thesis that we one always held, that people will not just go online, there will be a balance of online offline, and online players will come offline, which is visible across categories. So you have a Lenskart or a First Cry which have opened up physical stores. The offline players will go online and be omni, and hence the opportunity was to look at the offline players in India, and that theme has played out.
That's interesting. So clearly, this omni strategy seems to be, the call of the day. But Pankaj, give us a sense as to what the outlook is when it just purely comes to category-wise sales growth. Which has been, some of the categories that have seen a phenomenal growth? Would it be more within the footwear and sports segment?
So sports has really done well in the last month or so, and that's been trending across. People are becoming more health conscious and looking at a more active lifestyle. Footwear has done so. Actually, across categories we've done well. Probably luxury has been an outperformer, but even food and grocery, apparel, all have had like 15 to 20-25% sales. I think categories which have seen a bit of a slowdown potentially is stuff like home, where people over invested in the previous 2 months, 2 years.
Right. And Pankaj, what's the outlook when it comes to, how much you believe this is already priced in for some of these companies, given that, you started off by saying that we are seeing consumption back with a bang and we're seeing this across categories. How much of it do you believe is, perhaps already in the price?
So I think it's reflecting in the price for many of the companies where the multiples are for example 5 to 10 to 15 times sales. or maybe 30, 40, 50 times EBITDA. But if the high growth sustain, then these will all start looking like good entry points a few years down the line. I think the big play is that will the Indian consumer come back, and are we seeing a structural, move in consumption, and are we at what we looked at as the J curve for Indian consumption? So across categories, I mean, you look at cars, you can't get cars, for love or money without a waiting list of 5 to 6 to 7 months. You look at apparel, you look at electronics, you look at jewelry, you look at other luxury categories. So it's all happening. Now, there are certain companies which probably were getting priced in for a slow decline, where people thought that the customer will not walk into a retail store any longer. I think there the price discovery is still underway, and there potentially one could see greater upsides. But if one were to take a 5 year view, I think even where valuations look high, you would still make very good returns.
Pankaj, great to have you on the show. We'll let you go on that note. By the way, the equity markets are at the session lows on